All right. We're going back into open session. Thank you very much for your patience, everyone. So this brings us to public hearing number 6. Amanda Bunce is presenting.
Good evening. This text amendment is to Section 2.3.16D, Sustainable Development Conditional Zoning District. Basically, the text that is proposed is exactly the same as that presented to the Town Council on September 5th. That vote, the text amendment was denied at that time. And that's really all I have to present, but keep it short and sweet, exactly the same as before.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Bunce? No? All right, does the applicant wish to speak or a representation?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Jason Barron with Morningstar Law Group here on behalf of the applicant. We're excited to be back again. We specifically, we want to recognize Councilman Moyer. We appreciate your encouraging us to file this UDO amendment. We really do appreciate the time, interest, and energy that the town has put into this, that the entire council has put into this. I think it's representative of how important this development project is to not only my clients but also the town, and we greatly appreciate that. Here with me tonight is Mr. Richard Ortiz and Joe Morningstar of Hudson Realty Capital. They're the property owners. Also here are the representatives from NAI Carolinic, who are brokering this site and trying to bring kind of first-in-class development to Viridia at a time when there are first-in-class development opportunities in the marketplace to come to Viridia. The last time I was here, I provided a presentation associated with why we believe the UDO amendment makes for a better UDO. And I just want to cover those the 3 points that I made last time. All 3 of those points remain as true today as they were then. And the 3 ways it's a better UDO is because, first, it better protects the owners. It puts the owners, gives them a seat back at the table, and ensures that they have the right to remove a responsible person that they believe is not doing the job that the responsible person should be doing. Second, it gives the town that same equal footing. If the town determines that a responsible person is not doing their job the way that the responsible person should be doing their job, the town has the ability to remove that responsible person. It's an unfettered right to remove the responsible person. And third, it represents a partnership between the town and the owners, a collaborative way of designating responsible persons. And as you all are probably intimately familiar with now, the entitlements at Viridia, the combination of the UDO and the SD plan, essentially provides that forever Lookout Ventures controls who the responsible person is. And the owners can't say anything about that. The town can't say anything about that. And what we have proposed, we believe, strikes a better balance between what the town wants and what ownership wants, while still maintaining the responsible person concept and putting the town in a position of essentially being able to vet who that responsible person is. So if we designate a responsible person and we think they're doing swimmingly, you all disagree at some point, and they're removed, we go through a nomination process and we bring you back another candidate for a responsible person. I don't think it's going to happen a lot. We sure hope it won't happen a lot when this is approved, but I think it achieves a better, it makes a better UDO. It makes a better Viridia plan, and again, it continues to maintain the responsible person concept that was important to you all when Viridia was created, and is important to you all now. So all of those 3 reasons we believe are compelling reasons to approve this UDO amendment. I want to make a couple of other points. During the last hearing, Mr. Alan Manus spoke and suggested that the council shouldn't be an arbitrator of a private dispute. And I just want to talk about that for a minute, because while there may or may not be a dispute between 2 private parties, that doesn't change the fact that the SD plan and the UDO is exclusively in the dominion and control of you all. That the town gets to determine what the UDO says. The town gets to determine what the SD plan says. So even if my clients were to sue Tom Hendrickson and get a clean sweep in every possible claim that they could come up with, they would have a wonderful judgment that they felt amazing about, and they would still have Lookout Ventures as the responsible person, because there is no order that could be given by a judge in a lawsuit against Tom Hendrickson that can change you all's UDO. Only you can do that. And so I think that is an important point, that while you don't want to arbitrate private disputes, and I agree with that, what's different here is that the UDO has created the challenge that is before everybody tonight. Lastly, it has been suggested that Hudson should just seek to rezone the property. I think Mr. Manus also suggested that the last time we're here. And I would note that given how ardently Mr. Hendrickson has defended his position as responsible person in this process, it should raise everyone's eye when one of his business associates suggests that we should go through a rezoning process that would remove Mr. Hendrickson as the responsible person. I mean, of course, he doesn't want that result, which is why he's opposing this UDO amendment, which is why he's opposing us moving through this process. And so I would encourage the town to think long and hard about why it's being suggested we should go through a rezoning process. And also, I would remind the council that the language of the SD plan indicates that the responsible person, or actually the language of the UDO, section 2.3.16, indicates the responsible person has to approve any amendments to the plan. Now, if Mr. Hendrickson's going to stand up after I'm speaking and say, I will consent to Hudson file, as the responsible person, I will consent to Hudson filing a rezoning case, that's a different kettle of fish, and maybe we can have a conversation about that. But heretofore, that suggestion hasn't been made, and I'm predicting that you're probably not going to hear that from Mr. Hendrickson tonight. And so with that, we are excited to be here. There are projects ready to go. You heard that from me last time, and that's not my words. That's the folks at Carolinic. They've got projects in the market looking for homes, and we would love for them to find a home at Veridia. And we believe that if you approve this UDO amendment tonight, that those projects will start to happen quickly, and development, the legacy that will be Veridia will start tonight with this council. And so I would encourage you all to think about the energy that's put into Veridia and the lasting legacy that this council has an opportunity to make by unearthing this development project from its stalled position and allowing it to move forward. As I indicated, we appreciate you all's time and consideration. And again, Wes, you take your job very seriously as a council member, and it's apparent to everybody who goes through the process. You are always willing to meet. You always do your homework, and this is no exception, and we really do appreciate everybody's consideration, but appreciate you reaching out to us and giving it the thought you have. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, I'll open the public hearing. I have two who have signed up, Mr. Tom Hendrickson and Mr. Alan Manus. Come forward in either order.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Tom Hendrickson. I'm president of Lookout Ventures, Inc., and also the responsible person as such for Veridia. I am not really going to get into the back and forth. I've heard a lot of stuff just from Mr. Barron that was new and a bit amusing, but certainly interesting to hear just a moment ago. But first, I just would like to thank all of you for your time, patience, and diligence in trying to achieve our shared vision for Veridia. And I'd also like to take a personal moment, if I might, to recognize, because it'll be my last time before them at this table, to recognize and thank Councilmember Gene Schultz and Councilwoman Denise Wilkie for your years of service to the people of Apex. In this public forum, I'd like to say thank you. I'd also like to congratulate Mayor Pro Tem Nicole Dozier for leading the ticket, and congratulate and recognize incoming council members Brett Gant and Audrey Killingworth, who I believe are here with us tonight. As to the proposed amendment, we have discussed it, or one very similar to it, several times. As you know, I believe that the proposed UDO amendment is not applicable to Veridia and should be denied. Without discussing each important point by point, I would simply note that we, both myself and Hudson, as the two H's, Hendrickson and Hudson, in HH Trinity Apex Investments, accepted the conditions placed on the property during the rezoning and SD plan approval process because the town simultaneously granted an extraordinary entitlement and density that should have been and still can be the foundation of an exceptional development. While none of the current representatives of Hudson were involved, it's important for council members to remember that it was only after over 7,500 documented hours of effort, over 75 town-involved public meetings, 4 joint town council planning board public workshops, countless private and planning and strategy sessions, over 400 resolved formal staff comments, and significant support by the Apex Chamber of Commerce, and 3.5 years of work by the Viridia development team and the staff and elected officials at the town of Apex, that the Sustainable Development Conditional Zoning District was created, and the zoning and sustainable development plan for 1,012 acres of Viridia was approved by the town council in 2011. It was a very professional, thorough, transparent, and fully public process. We do all have, I have as well, we've had people interested in doing stuff at Viridia. But there are simply things that, as you know, because you've seen and know the steps that need to be taken in the plan, there's more to do out there than just sell things. We've had users for a while, but we have an environmental enhancement plan. We have additional properties that all need to be brought under a master property owners association and put under common restrictive covenants before anything can move forward. And at this point, those simply are not able to happen. So notwithstanding anything else, those can't happen at this time. I do know how to make those happen, and I believe we can. I believe that we owe it to the citizens of Apex to maintain the original vision for Viridia, which was assured by the council's approval of the Viridia SD plan and is now protected by North Carolina law. Please allow Viridia to move forward as approved and avoid any potential challenge to that vision by rejecting the proposed UDO text amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hendrickson. Mr. Manus? You defer? All right, thank you. All right. Having gone through that, that is the complete list of sign-ins, so we will close the public hearing and refer the matter back to council for discussion leading to a possible motion.
Well, I'll be glad to start discussion. Okay. I taught school for over 30 years, and I've been a mother for 26 years and some, and my daughters now are 26 and 24, so I've had a lot of experience saying no. And I don't have a problem saying no when I look at things being in the best interest of my family, and in this case, the town. So oftentimes when my girls were, let's say 10 years ago, they were 16 and 14, I often had questions come to me many times about, Mom, can I do this, can I do this? Well, the first thing I would say to them is, it's not can I, it's may I, and the answer is no. And then they would come back maybe 5 minutes, or I should say 5 seconds later, and ask me again, would you mind if I? Answer is no, looking out for your best interest. And then, maybe 5-10 minutes later, they'd come back and say, well, Mom, what if I cleaned my room? What if I did that? Well, as tempting as that was for a 14-year-old to clean their room, I still had to look out for the best interest of my family, and in this case, it's this town, and I still am going to say no. We talked a little bit. I said this is the umpteenth time that I've heard this, and just like I used to say to my kids when they were 13, 10, 8, or whatever, the answer is no, because I'm looking out for your best interest. This is my last council meeting, and I have a legacy, I feel like, of putting the town's best interest first. Maybe everybody doesn't always agree with that, but I feel like I've done what is right, and I'm not going to leave this council tonight not doing what I feel like is the best interest of this town. So I for the umpteenth time, I'm saying no, I will not change this amendment. The ordinance.
So I'll go next. So first, as an elected official, I'm not really interested in adding to my job description, trying to figure out the job that a responsible person is doing, how good the job is, you know, if they need some improvement. I do that for my job as managing a team, but I can't add that to this. And serving as the current mayor pro tem, I would say in much of your argument I heard this evening, it was a lot of personal things. It wasn't, you know, Lookout Ventures. It really sounds personal. And, you know, when I first joined this council, I was advised by folks on your team that this is the greatest thing that, you know, that Apex will ever see. And I don't think it's my role to get involved in something that feels personal, because there is a lot of personal things that were said there in the microphone. And also I would say, as the mayor pro tem of this council, is to suggest that there are folks here who have not been open, willing to discuss things. I think for the record, I'd want to say that I don't know that there's anyone sitting here who hasn't been open to any applicant, as long as they've been brought or approached in a respectful manner. And so that's what I would say. I wouldn't want anyone in this room or to look at this later or think that there are people here who aren't willing to listen to anyone. So that's what I'd say about that. I've not changed my decision based on, you know, what I've read, what I've heard this evening. I am going to take the advice that I was given when I took this office in 2013. It's not to get involved in what seems personal, and let's move ahead and be professional, and let's move ahead for Apex. But I don't think it's my place to be involved with that. I'm ready and willing and open, but I want to be approached the same way other folks are.
I think I feel differently than most people, but and I won't repeat what I said the last time. I guess my overall feeling, and the part that bothers me the most, is I feel like there's no winners in this situation. No matter what the decision is, nobody's going to win. It's Viridia has been a long time coming, and unfortunately, nothing's happened yet. So it's been my experience when things aren't working, things need to change. So that's why I'm actually in favor of this amendment. Because I think that's the only thing that's going to break the juggernaut that'll release Viridia to reach its potential that it can reach.
I'll go next. I've spent, this seems like, well, it was 2 years ago it was first brought for this change, and that was when I was elected. So this is something that has occupied some space of my brain for 2 years as we've handled the rezonings on this council and the various things that we handle. You know, I believe that private businesses should handle their disputes between themselves and not get government involved. However, the government is clearly a partner in this with the over 7,500 documented hours and all the amendments and changes and things that were put together with this SD plan. The process, there's been sufficient evidence provided to me that the process is clearly broken and needs to be fixed. And I think it's safe to say that we as a town would love to see something happen at the Viridia project. But at the end of the day, we have to make a decision on what's best for the town, and I don't feel like this UDO amendment is the right way to go to make this change.
Well, I was hoping everybody said everything that I'd want to say, but it's pretty close, so I will keep this relatively short. It troubles me that this situation is developed. It is the responsibility of the applicants that originally put this thing together, far more than it is the town. I think it is a partnership, but it got to this situation by everyone to a degree, but with the applicants as the main ones. It also troubles me a lot that there's a situation where property owners, 80% of the property owners in this situation, are tied to a responsible person that they are troubled with and don't have a direct avenue to resolve the problem, but I do think there are other avenues than this approach that need to be taken. I earlier voted in favor of this type of an amendment. I have become concerned that there are other ways to do it that put the town in less jeopardy than we might in this situation. So it bothers me a lot that this seems to be a lock-in situation, at least up front, but I don't think it is. I think that this amendment, as it's written, probably should be used carrying forward of some sort, or anybody that comes in with an SD plan with a responsible person needs to be aware that they could get, to a degree, trapped with one situation that they want to get out of and can't. But I think that they can get out of this if they take the right approach, and I think they need to take other approaches before they request the town make changes that we could put all of our constituents in effect through their tax payments in jeopardy. So I hate to change my vote, but I think for the best of the town at this point, other approaches need to be taken before we take this major step. I would be happy to see this thing continued for a long time forward to take these other steps. But even if it was down line, we might still have the same problem. But at least we would have gone across, or the applicants would have gone across other bridges to find out if they can resolve this without the town getting involved.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion to deny.
I'll second.
We have a motion to deny and a second. Is there discussion on the motion?
And I will say one other thing, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, is that just like I used to tell my students and my children, it's nothing personal. It's not that I don't like the Morningstar Group or any of you. This is not personal. This is about the town.
No. And I will say, we need to follow other avenues first. They need to follow other avenues first before we take this step. And if that doesn't work, then we can come back and look at this a little bit different. Right now, it's conflicted right the way it's written within the UDO. So that's a problem right away that jumps out. There is a conflict right within the UDO that we start out with. So it's not really ready to go. And that's it.
All right. Is there other discussion? I think everybody's kind of voiced. Does anybody object if I call for the vote? All right. The motion is to deny the amendment. All in favor of denial, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed to denial, please indicate by saying nay.
Nay.
All right. So the denial motion passes 4-1. The amendment is denied. We now move to public hearing number 7. Amanda Bunce.
Okay. There are 3 text amendments in this report. I'll pause after I present each one to see if you have any questions. The first amendment is to the sign subsections of the plan unit development and traditional neighborhood development sections of the UDO. The purpose is to remove a content-related standard and to allow PUD and T&D developments to submit a signage plan that varies from the standards of the UDO. Currently, there are very limited changes that can be made to the sign section, and staff believes that there should be more flexibility for signage plans that are in context with the PUD. And I'll point out that some of the proposed language is identical between the PUD and the T&D. And included in the text is the master signage plan shall have design standards that are exceptional and provide for higher quality signs than those in routine developments, and shall comply with Section 8.7.2 prohibited signs. I'd be happy to answer any questions on that one that you may have.
Any questions? Let's do these questions at a time as we go. Any questions on this one?
Is this street signs in neighborhoods?
This does not relate to street signs, the street names. So this would be for any other sign within the PUD, monument signs or commercial signage.
Okay.
Okay. No questions on that one? Okay, the next amendment is also related to is in the sign section. And the proposal here is to set a minimum setback for principal ground signs, a minimum setback from the right-of-way. And that setback would be 10 feet. This would apply for both non-residential and residential ground signs. And this would not apply to any sign that's located within the median of an entrance drive. Any questions on that? Okay. And the final amendment is to the site plan exemption section to add modular units for schools as a type of development that is exempt from site plan review. This would essentially make the type of review an exempt site plan review, which is a quicker process. Both processes are that they currently follow are generally administrative. And then staff has proposed language that states such units shall be sited so that their visibility from public streets is screened to the extent reasonable and practicable by permanent buildings and/or existing or planted evergreen screening to a height of 6 feet at the time of planting. Are there any questions on that amendment?
I'm just questioning the merits of that. It seems like we're making a special exception for schools.
Well, there are exceptions throughout the UDO for different types, for public utility projects, for schools, for small developments, like if a business wants to add less than 10 parking spaces to their business, then they are allowed to follow that exempt plan process as well. So there are several exemptions from the standard site plan process. So this process is quicker and it saves money for the school system as well.
But if a business wanted to put modulars up, wouldn't they have to go through, they wouldn't be exempt, would they?
They would not be, because it's a detached structure. If there would be a proposal for a small expansion of a commercial building, that's less than a certain percentage, I want to say it's 25%, then that would be exempt. So there are exemptions for expansions of both buildings and parking lots.
I guess I can understand exempting anything because it's trivial in nature, you don't want to go through the whole process. But to me, this is a major, addition. You put up modulars, and I'm not sure why we would exempt that. But, okay, that's right. Well, where did this come from, by the way?
Well, we review these as staff either way, and generally the outcome is going to be the same. Okay. So it's essentially just making a simpler process for both the school system and staff.
Okay, fair enough.
I think for the school system, you need to make it as simple as you can, because obviously they have to put those modular systems on.
I guess my question, why wouldn't we do it for everybody then? That's all.
I think it's a different situation.
Yeah, and I think a modular system on a school ground is certainly far more acceptable than a modular system sitting next to a building or something like that, right out in the open where it's in your face, whereas you have these modular systems to accommodate children in an expanding school. It's just...
Yeah. So I think it's preferable. Is there a business in town, I guess I'm thinking with a modular unit?
Post office.
Yeah, the post office. Exactly.
That would be the only example that I would know of off the top of my head.
So this amendment says that it needs to be more screened. They need to put a larger buffer, more dense buffer in.
This is something that generally staff request, and we work with the school system as best we can. But this is actually codifying what we are generally always asking for the school system as far as placement or screening goes, so that it is less visible.
I'm all for making it easy for the school system, but why don't we make it easy for everybody? That's my question. what's different about the school system that way? We wouldn't afford a business the same luxury.
Yeah, I don't,
Typically, these requests are made where the enrollment is high and they only have a limited amount of time to get the classrooms ready for the students. And so it's really a public good, not a private good, to allow these modular units.
And unfortunately, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I respectfully disagree, but that's okay. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, no, I'm sorry. Many schools are built and they already know they're gonna have to have modular units. They already have the utilities underneath. So unfortunately, we're not funding schools at the level where they can all fit in the cafeteria and all fit in within the school. So I think if they had to do it so often, they know how to do it, unfortunately.
So I guess I'm still a bit foggy on what the UDO is saying. Because we keep talking about schools and how easy it is for schools, but not businesses. I guess I'm a little foggy still.
so,
This amendment is saying,
so generally, we don't see businesses requesting a modular unit as an expansion. What they're typically going to do is expand physically their building, which can be, not always, but can be more difficult with a school building, which is a much larger facility.
okay.
And so the modular gives them the ability to add, and typically once they add them, they stay there a while, but sometimes they are removed as capacities and needs shift through the county. So,
So if the school came to us and said they want to put a modular unit, this amendment is saying,
this amendment basically speeds up their process. The exempt site plan process is a 10 business day comment time versus generally on a monthly cycle. They basically are on a 2-week cycle.
Yeah.
But we are still looking at where the plan is, where the modular unit is going on a plan, ensuring buffering is met, ensuring, if water or sewer is needed to. We're still looking at the same elements, but
Okay.
it's in a
It speeds
much
up the
more
process.
condensed plan set and a quicker process because it's a very small component of a site. And typically, they don't have to make a lot of other improvements or add parking, so it's a simpler plan for staff to review.
And my point is, I'm good, I like that, but why wouldn't we do that for everybody then?
And-
What makes a school district different?
Do we do it for private schools? But this,
Yep.
this says schools, so we
It
would
would
do it for
apply
private
to a
schools.
private or a public school.
Yeah. Well, there you are.
Oh.
I think the
She
issue
met you halfway.
with a school, that they're going through so much bureaucratic stuff already, and the school is a need, and that they have to have it because the state legislators will say, you can only have this many kids per classroom. Well, a business doesn't say, you can only have this many people in this building, or you need to expand your building. The business chooses to expand itself, whereas a school has to have modular units because they have to follow policy that is put down from the state legislators. That's how I see it.
so if I own a business and I want to put a modular unit, what's my timing on getting something like that approved?
Well, without getting into a lot of detail, it depends on the quality of the plans that are submitted, but generally, on average, a minor site plan takes 3 to 4 months at minimum to be approved. It can be as much as 6 months.
So what,
That's from minor site plan, sorry to interrupt, through
no.
construction plan approval. So that's all the way through, from first submittal through construction plan approval.
so why can't we shorten that up too? That's my question.
I think we just
Well,
lengthened
maybe that
it
means
last year.
it might be a staffing issue, maybe.
We could shorten it up if we doubled our staff
Right, so.
at a cost of taxpayer money.
I think, that's a staff need.
And there are exemptions for building expansions, like I mentioned before, expanding parking by less than 10 spaces, expanding your building square footage by less than 25%, so.
I think it's somewhat of a moot question, quite frankly, because apparently nobody has tried it.
I agree, I just, philosophically, I don't like, there's no reason why we can't treat a business the same way as a school district. No reason why, but I don't see it. Nobody's telling me a good reason why.
I think I just said it.
No,
I
you
think
gave
I
me-
said
you
it.
gave me a good reason why a school should have it, but not as a business. Why should a business be penalized?
I don't think they're
Here,
being
we call for-
penalized. I
They
think
are.
they're,
Well, yeah, look,
I mean, this is, either we vote for it or we don't. I mean, it's,
all right,
I made
The only other thing I would mention is that the planning board, at their meeting on the 13th, recommended approval unanimously of each of these three amendments.
All right. So we have three amendments. We got a couple of choices. One is we can vote for all of them, or if we want to vote on the first two real quick and get those out of the way and talk some more about number three, we can.
That'd be my preference.
Let's do that.
Yes?
Still need to open the public hearing.
Okay, all right, thanks. Yes, thank you. And now would be a good time to do that. So I'll open the public hearing, and no one has signed up, so I'll close the public hearing. And now we bring it back to the council. Maybe if there is a motion to approve the first two amendments,
So moved.
Second.
then we can, any discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion to approve the first two amendments, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right, those pass unanimously. And now we can talk about the third amendment just a little bit further. Who wants the floor?
Well, I mean, I think everybody's points have been made, so I might as well go ahead with the vote unless somebody wants to talk more.
I mean, I agree with you, Gene. I mean, a business should have, you know, we should be respectful of businesses and getting their business going along, and they shouldn't have to be penalized because they're a business. But I was just making the point about why schools sometimes get special treatment. If y'all all want to go along and say that businesses should move quicker, then it's like Diane said, then you're going to have to hire more people to take care of that.
Well, I guess my scenario is a business gets a big contract, but they gotta deliver it on a certain timeline, so they gotta expand fast, they don't have time to wait around. So, we should open the doors for them, remove those hurdles, so they can prosper.
So,
How often does that
I
happen?
believe we have fast track to try to speed that along, where they just pay an extra fee. Do they not?
Well, that's for building permit review, not for
Okay.
site plan review, but we also have a temporary use permit for construction trailers or sales offices, things of that nature, that can be modular units while they are working on expanding their business, so we do have temporary.
I just approved one on Investment Boulevard. We do that for businesses all the time, but it's a temporary use permit. It's 1 year that they have it temporarily there while they're working on their permanent plans.
I'm not gonna be a dead horse, because then, why can't we do the same thing for school districts then, right? Approve a temporary use permit. Well,
Because after 1 year, they would have to remove the modular unit, and that does not happen with schools. It will not happen with schools.
well, it's a different situation then, because schools are modular, and the business, you're saying, would not necessarily be modular afterwards, so. All right, I'm ready to vote.
is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion to approve? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
All right, that passes 4-1. And that concludes public hearing number 7, which also concludes all of our public hearings tonight. There being no old or unfinished business, we now move into the time of new business, while we watch our town manager, Drew Havens, making his way to the podium, so he can talk about accepting a conveyance and a title of land adjacent to Tenjin Road Water Tower. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I received a phone call from the owners of the piece of land that you see highlighted here, South Salem Street, Tenjin Road, our water tower. They are the owners of the land across the street where the townhome's being built. This is an orphan piece of land. They don't need it anymore. They wanted to know if the town would be interested in having them gift that to us.
No, you can't take gifts.
I'm sorry.
I'm kidding.
You know, obviously,
Keep going.
it is wooded now. It's adjacent to land we already own. It's kind of one of the gateways to the town, so if we can control that piece of land and what that looks like, from my perspective, that has some appeal. Answer any questions you may have. I do need a slight change in the motion, rather than what's on your agenda item, to actually say a motion to investigate accepting conveyance. So we need to come back to you. We want to do a little more due diligence, some environmental assessment and so on, to be sure we're not getting something that we really don't want. But we didn't want to go down that road unless the council was interested in accepting this gift.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Somebody told me one time you don't take something without making sure you know how you're going to maintain it and all that. So, you know, I think that's a great idea. It'd be nice to have an addition to the town if it's not going to cost us more money to maintain it.
The only disadvantage would come off the tax rolls then?
Yes, sir. So tax assessed value is $100,000.
How big is that parcel?
.48 acres.
Has the developer asked for anything for that?
No, just a place to give it. Will you accept it? They have no, they didn't need it for additional RCA, to make their project work or anything, so,
They could just let it go for tax purposes anyhow, just not pay their taxes on it,
correct.
if you think about it. It's gonna go someplace then.
This way, the title gets cleared,
Yeah.
we have control of it if, if it meets all the environmental assessments and so on that we'll do, and we'll obviously look at the title to be sure it's clean before we accept anything. So just looking for your advice, if you wanna consider accepting it, we would have to come back to the council, to vote for acceptance, when we get, or vote for the approval of the transfer when we get that far.
And I guess they get a tax write-off by doing this, I would expect,
I would expect.
which is better than.
How do we make the motion? What did you say? How do
Just a motion to investigate at the acceptance and conveyance of the title of land.
At that, I make a motion
All right,
to that.
is there a second of that?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to investigate the acceptance of the conveyance of land. Not to look a gift horse in the mouth, but we would like to look this gift horse in the mouth first, as a due diligence for the taxpayers and citizens of Apex. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. If worse comes to worse, since the depot building is sitting on land we don't own, and that's next to the railroad tracks,
Build another depot.
Are you thinking of moving the depot building down there?
No.
No.
brick by brick. No.
On the record.
I didn't say that. Somebody else said that. No business number 2, possible motion to approve the Towns at Westford Master Subdivision Plan located on 64 Highway West. Shelley Mayo is presenting. 55 3/4 acres. Thanks for hanging around, Miss Mayo.
I try. Hope y'all are enjoying this as much as I am. The project before you is a residential master subdivision plan for the Towns at Westford. Just to orient you to the site, you saw an annexation for this property earlier today. So we're actually looking at a portion of the Westford PUD. If you look at, and it's kind of hard to see, but there's a dashed yellow line that runs the perimeter and a solid yellow line. The dashed yellow line includes portions of the Westford PUD that are not actually included in this master subdivision plan. But the entire area enclosed in the yellow, both dashed and solid, is the Westford PUD. Okay? To the north, we have the preserve at White Oak Creek. To the south, there's a storage facility and offices here, and then this is actually a portion of Sweetwater Development. And then, of course, over here is Abington. And then to the east, we have 540. To the west, there's this intersection here with what will be Richardson and Jenks at 64. The approved zoning for this is PUD CZ. Surrounding it is primarily rural residential and PUD CZ to the north, some more PUD CZ to the south with some tech flex, light industrial, rural residential, and medium density conditional zoning. The 2030 land use map does call for mixed use office employment, planned commercial, and high density residential. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting on May 16th, 2017. That meeting report is attached in your staff report. The site consists mostly of portions of 3 parcels which total 55.73 acres. It is a part of that larger Westford PUD, which is a total of 100.7 acres. It's located between Jenks and US 64. It's mostly wooded with a few abandoned homes and non-residential buildings. There's an intermittent stream and portions of the Cardinal and Colonial pipelines running through it. You can kind of see that here. There's a great big long, slightly lighter greenish line that runs all the way through here. Those are the pipelines. The property was rezoned in 2012 to planned unit development conditional zoning. Westford Apartments major site plan was recently approved by Town Council and is a part of the PUD. This is shown on the existing conditions. It is not existing as in built, but the applicant wanted to show it and how it would be impacting the conditions of this subdivision. The apartments are located to the west of the townhomes, and the portion of the property located closest to the intersection of Jenks and 64, which is right here, is planned to be non-residential. In your staff report, there's an excerpt of the approved zoning conditions for the architectural standards. Takes up the bottom part of page 1, all of page 2, and a portion of the top of page 3. The full PUD is actually in your town council packet as well, if you want to look at that. The master subdivision plan complies with the UDO on grading. The proposed project will connect to and extend existing public facilities. It complies with the approved water system map and wastewater system map. The project is not located in a FEMA-designated floodplain, but is located in the town of Apex's primary watershed protection overlay district. As such, all of the Apex stormwater and drainage requirements are being met. Here we go. The buffers along here are the buffers that are being proposed are consistent with what was required within the PUD. And the resource conservation that was required for the overall PUD was 23.02 acres, or 23%. What's being provided in this portion by the towns at Westford is 10.75 acres. The applicant is also proposing street trees, which will be maintained by the HOA and located within the street right-of-way. An encroachment agreement will be necessary. The underlying PUD was heard by the Parks and Rec Advisory Commission in 2012. The Advisory Commission recommended a fee in lieu in compliance with the then current fee schedule. The amount is listed in your staff report. The proposed subdivision plan is consistent with the Apex Transportation Plan. Regarding access and circulation, the towns at Westford will connect to Jenks Road via a full movement access that extends Wimberley Road, that's right here, and extends through the neighborhood. A second full movement access will be provided east of the Wimberley Road connection. That's this one right here. The recently approved Westford Apartments are constructing 2 additional connections. Those will connect to this subdivision through this road here. One of those 2 connections that's being provided by the apartments will also connect to Jenks Road, so if we're extending the map, it's about right here. The other one will connect directly to US 64. Again, if we're extending the map, it's kind of right here-ish. The applicant has also provided a public access easement with a 5-foot sidewalk connecting to the existing Sunset Meadows Drive. That is shown right here. As a part of this project, a cul-de-sac turnaround will be constructed for Sunset Meadows Drive. This will also allow residents and emergency services on that road to turn around more safely. The proposed subdivision plan meets the requirements of the UDO as shown, and staff does recommend approval as shown. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. The applicant is also here.
I guess this is for the applicant. Earlier tonight, one of the applicants proposed adding conduit to provide for solar photovoltaic systems. I'd be interested in the thoughts there.
Mayor, councilors, thank you. My name is Ryan Akers. I'm an engineer with the McAdams Company. With me tonight, I brought the applicant, the owner, and planner with McAdams who helped with the project. Your question was if we would consider additional measures on the units for rooftop solar.
Yeah, consists of adding conduit, just conduit from the attic down.
We would consider. I haven't looked into the cost with the developer yet, but I'm sure they would consider it, but I don't think we're ready to commit to something like that yet.
I can wait. The night is young.
I mean, that's what he said already.
Consider it strongly? You'd consider it? How about just on any south-facing roof? For any, commit to any south-facing, major south-facing roof. Major south-facing roof.
Why don't you
I'm sorry.
Come on to the front.
I should have just
That's
discussed this
all right.
earlier.
Come on to the front. We've got a microphone at the podium, so that way everybody can hear you.
What did he say?
I can turn it down.
Oh, yes. Right. I can get you now.
Good evening, I'm Steve Leeson with Taylor Morrison. We are the developer for the Westford Master Subdivision Plan that is under consideration this evening. And I say we'll be glad to consider it because I don't know what the expense of what you're asking is or how it will affect the project. I would need to understand what that expense is before I can be willing to.
If it was less than $100 or something, I don't know, I guess you have to put a monetary value on it, but it just simply consists of when the structure is open, and I should have discussed this with you before, I do apologize. When the structure is open, you run a conduit from the attic down to where the electrical distribution box is. That's what it is. You might put a J box there, and that's it. And that way, people don't have to tear their walls out if they want to put solar photovoltaics, which are coming. And I'll take your word that you will consider it and
Good. I'd at least like to get it costed out before I.
Cost it out, and mainly, you want to look at the south-facing roofs. If the thing is oriented east-west or the roofs are oriented east-west, it's much less valuable because the sun happens to look at us from the south.
Fair enough.
So if you could do that, I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant or for Ms. Mayo? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion on the motion to approve?
Well, I said it before, I think this is a lot better than what we had a number of years ago, and I very much appreciate the developers for coming forth with this type of a plan.
All right, thank you. All in favor, I'll give it another second. Anybody else? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much for being willing to strongly consider the conduit.
Thank you.
As Councilman Jensen would say, it's just a little conduit.
Yeah, it's a conduit to my vote.
All right, thank you very much. Now that concludes new business number 2. That leaves us with new business number 3, and this is Council Member Moyer. I'll just let you introduce it.
Yes, do you need me to walk to the podium?
Only if you need to operate the mouse and keyboard yourself.
I brought this up, this was from my personal experience last year at the Christmas parade. I think it's safe to say we all love the Christmas parade and have a great time down there. As the town has grown, the popularity of this event has grown, and people have started setting up chairs earlier and earlier. Well, Friday night during the festivities, people set their chairs up on the curb and roped them off. So if you happen to find yourself in a business or on the sidewalk, you couldn't just walk down into the road, and go across the street. You had to walk down and find an opening. And so my proposal, and this proposal, is to restrict the putting of chairs on the curb downtown Salem Street until the festivities are over on Friday night. And then people can have at it.
Should we set a time?
Yeah, you need to
I
give
think
the
it's
time.
9 p.m. I think is when the event ends
When
Friday
the
night.
streets close.
Yeah, when the streets close Friday
We
night.
met, and one of the other issues
they
is,
reopen.
Chief Letney was there, and we talked a little bit about public safety and the EMS trying to get into buildings and, to help people and all that. When you have the chairs out there that early without much going on the streets blocked off, it's kind of a public safety hazard.
Mr. Havens, do you have anything to add?
Drew had to step out, sorry for
To that?
There he is. Come to the microphone.
He's checking papers.
Please.
I apologize, dealing with the work and downside.
Oh, actually, I guess you are still working.
Stop.
Introduce yourself, tell us your address.
73 Hunter Street most of the time.
Good one.
Yellow lights on, need to wrap up.
Yeah.
The primary concern I believe that we had, and Mr. Purvis can fill in the gaps here, is during the Christmas on Salem, we've started to see people put the chairs out even beginning at noon on Friday. So it's beginning to creep earlier and earlier. And during Christmas on Salem, when the chairs are tied to the light poles and trash cans and all that, the people that are moving between the street and the sidewalk are obstructed. So we don't want to get rid of the kind of the small town feel about, you know, being able to put your chairs out and they're safe being there all day Saturday until the parade comes and you staked out your spot. But we need to kind of limit that, especially with the several thousand people that will be downtown on that Friday night. Just keep them off the streets. You know, Kappa will be on duty for the Christmas on Salem event. The police will be there, just reminding people as they're trying to put chairs up, please don't do that. There will be signs. Mr. Purvis is working with the police and with Public Works and Communications to get the word out, just asking people to please cooperate with this.
And the Grinch.
And the Grinch,
There,
yeah,
right?
the Grinch
Yeah.
is involved in this as well, because
Well,
ultimately,
that's a
if
good job for him.
if somebody
Her.
decides to
Well.
put their chair out there, and we're going to have to remove it. So our Public Works folks are working that night for Christmas on Salem. They'll remove it, they'll tag it the best they can as to what location it came from. There will be a little bit of angst, you know, when someone shows up, Mr. Schultz shows up and says, I'm here to get my blue chair. Well, which blue chair? And how can you prove which one is yours? So we're going to try to do our best with that. There's probably going to be some concerns, but the committee listened to all this and we kind of batted it around, and, you know, setting the time as, you know, when the streets are open back up. So when the police terminate that incident, the Christmas on Salem incident, once the streets are open, then people can start putting them out there.
Yeah. If the signage is there and Kappa is willing to help, it seems reasonable that they can just ask people, just keep carrying your chairs around until after we close the street off, after we end the event, or incident, as you referred to it.
Was there anything I missed, Mr. Purvis?
No, we've tried to plan out the logistics of it depending on what council wanted to do. So we are trying to know where we get them, tag them. We're actually just trying to store them up at the Halley. The Christmas tree event's going on, but there's a space in the back and the rear, so it's close by. And on the sign we'll have, hey, come, if you left it and we picked it up, come get it. So we're trying to cover all those bases, but we've tried to think through everything, but we know there's always going to be something that pops up. So we'll do what we can, and hopefully there's not too many with the signage and the messaging that we'll have.
And I think also if town website and other social media has an announcement that many of us can share, including everyone out here can share, right? We all get to share. I think it'll help get the word out. So I think this is a reasonable. And did this originate from just originally some downtown business owners express concerns?
Kind of originated from me.
Oh, it was your idea?
Yeah, last Christmas we experienced it firsthand. We were in a business getting whatever hot chocolate, and we walked out and we wanted to go across the street, you know.
Oh, and there were chairs all
over. There were chairs roped off, you know, so obviously with kids in tow it becomes quite challenging.
Yeah.
We would jump over them.
Well,
Right. I would just
I was
tell
gonna
people.
throw my 2-year-old over, but
I would tell people to put Denise Wilkie's name on it, and then, you know, on their chairs.
Mayor, I can't add that to echo Councilman Moore's sentiment, there were business owners that felt the same way.
As well.
And that they've mentioned that. We sought their input on this.
Okay.
And they've mentioned it to the police department in
All
multiple
right.
meetings as well, so.
And
It's not just,
public safety, really came into it as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
trying to get in there to help people.
get a runaway horse or something.
All right. Is there a motion? Well, this is coming from a council member. Do you want to make the motion?
Yes, I will make a motion that we approve this.
All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion to approve?
I think we're keeping the downtown charm, and we're doing something to help people at
Yes.
the same time.
Yes.
So,
All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, the motion passes. Thanks for helping us make the downtown charm still charming and not an obstacle course. We already have one of those down at the park. We'll now entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
It looks like Councilman Schultz is already moving.
Ready to go.
So, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right, that's all right. We're good now to closed session.